Ah, good evening.
Good evening, good day, good night, Merry Christmas. I love you all. My heart is warm. I'm thankful to see both of you there together. And for Jean, lovely to see that you're with us. Yeah, I just want to greet everyone and say thank you. I really appreciate this.
Oh,
good.
we appreciate you too, Christopher. We're missing you here.
Okay, I'm working on it. We'll come over shortly.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. We got a nice new backyard and setup for you.
Oh, yeah, we'll do some prayers and ceremony and whatever we need to do. And
Perfect.
yeah, welcome ourselves to the land. And
Exactly.
feels good. Yeah. Yeah, it feels a blessing. It's really strange. I'm actually missing being over there. It's like being homesick.
Oh, how sweet.
It's really weird. It's like I live, it's Lord of the Rings country. I live
Yeah, I
there.
know.
And I'm homesick for Sedona, the US.
Well, you realize the hobbits all moved here about 10 years ago.
Oh, is that why they're all so short over there?
That's the problem. Yeah. A lot of them were up on First Mesa.
I had a friend who became one of the extras with the Hobbit movies as a Hobbit. And his natural look was such that they didn't do any makeup on him.
So
That's
funny.
good. So
Gotta love it.
as you can see, folks, part of this was going to be making sure we had fun into any sort of program we do, retreat we do, place we go to, people we work with.
Because what's the point in life if we're not having fun and finding some joy through all of the chaos?
Yep. Especially when things get difficult. Having some fun lets us just move beyond it and move into the next realm.
Mhm. Hold on.
What's
Where
something
are we?
that made you smile today, Christopher and John?
For me, just the people that I've met, like yesterday was such an amazing day. There was so much going on. Changes, shifts, feeling things happening and moving forward. It really confirmed to me yesterday, yes, I'm coming back. And yeah, like there was just gathering of friends yesterday from start to finish. It was just a lovely day. Good times were had. We had ceremony, we had hugs, we had laughs, we cried. And today's just feels a bit beautiful flow onto that. So
Good deal.
yeah.
Yeah, and things were happening all over yesterday. That's right. We ended up online for, I don't know, about an hour or two.
Yeah.
So just the energies, energies don't know any borders or boundaries.
No, especially during eclipse season.
Oh, yeah.
Especially during this season where there's that navigation of the balance of light and dark, where there's a time with this eclipse portal where it's like there's sudden endings and new beginnings, and you feel this dramatic acceleration between those energies. So it's very important for us to remember to come back into our breath and slow down during all of that. It's been some crazy shifts, and definitely in my life personally, there's been definite sudden endings and new beginnings. So we just have to trust in all of that energy and embrace it, and try and give ourselves some grace as we navigate it. And gathering community, different spaces to help support us with different tools. Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, it's a big thing that, when we have shifts, finding comfortability in it, understanding it's part of the process. And I always like a quote from the Course in Miracles: that which is real cannot be lost. That which can be lost is not real. Once we understand that, we don't mind the things that go, and we realize that which remains is the stuff that we have value in.
Mm-hmm.
It's that which supports life, nourishes us, and it's real. Our heart is always present, our openness is always there, as long as we can maintain that and have confidence in it. There's actually a joy in actually watching those changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find no matter what we go through, no matter how much up and down it is, there's a real joy at the end of it, that celebration. I just get happier and happier every time there's a significant change. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Jan. Welcome. Yeah, I agree with you, Christopher. It feels exciting, even though all of these shifts, these sudden shifts have been kind of like, whoa, like someone just, my Italian grandmother just smacked me across the head is what it feels like. but it's also exciting of like, okay, well then if that chapter is ending, then what is beginning? And there's that joyfulness to being curious as to what's unfolding that maybe we don't see so fully or feel so fully yet. We just have to really have that trust that, okay, everything that is literally supposed to fall off that doesn't support me is going to go. And that's making space for what does support and what's in our highest alignment and truth.
It is, and there's still some things keeps coming up that we need to walk away from our own past, each of us. And it doesn't have to be this lifetime, but a lot of it is this lifetime. And I'm hearing it from other people too. Like, wow, I thought I was done with this. Now I have to walk away from certain people or places or situations or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, Chris, as you said that, I really felt that. It feels not difficult. It feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like dropping a weight. And that's not judging. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even some of the people that I find I'm not working with as much as I used to, it actually feels good because they're doing what they need to. I'm doing what I need to. And new people are coming into the, to the mix. So yeah, you're right. It's quite a, so we got to keep doing things to keep ourselves in a good space. And I was thinking about this because I was chatting with some other folks who do retreats in different places on the world. Chris, you and I talked a little yesterday, and I'm like, wow, but they're all different. So some of them are healing retreats. Shamane does one with a lot of yoga,
Self-care,
transformational retreats, all kinds of educational ones. And I mean, they don't have to be retreats. They can, just come together for an
spaces
evening.
for communities to gather and grow.
Which is what we're creating here. So that even that timing is interesting. I'm sitting here now and still scratching my head going, why do I have this? Why did I buy a house? But it's not about me. It's a community space. And as people keep showing up, I met the woman across the street yesterday. We had a nice chat. And she does similar work. So we're going to meet more. But her whole thing was, wow, you've just had lots of people coming and going. And I said, I know, I didn't know I had that many friends. Said, they're actually helping, aren't they? I said, oh yeah, they're helping a ton. She goes, yeah, everybody on the street can already feel the energy change.
Oh.
Which meant more to me than saying, because she hasn't been inside, she doesn't know what we've done yet.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was really quite and I've been sitting with that because that's something we need to be doing everywhere.
Very much. Yeah. If there's anything I can do to support from here, energetically or any other way with anything that you guys are doing, always feel free to let me know. I'm happy to join in.
You're doing it right now.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So,
and of course, you could send back your fish,
Yeah, well, we're working on it. Have you got your
Okay.
bird sanctuary in the backyard for me yet?
It's coming.
Coming along. I'm sure now that Sunbird's here, the hawks are going to be coming through.
Oh, there's a lot of hawks. There's
Sunbird and kiwi.
There's been eagles. It's a wildlife is everywhere here. Even some I didn't know. The neighbor was telling me some of the things I didn't even know were here. There's a lot of fox. Foxes.
Foxing.
A lot of
Interesting.
energy. It's fox.
Foxy.
Foxy.
Mm,
Foxy ladies. Oh,
yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to say, Christopher?
Oh, I probably still left my hand up from last time.
yep.
It's interesting. There was an event I had earlier in the week that on the outset felt sad. I came across a falcon that had been hit on the road. We
Mm,
stopped.
mm,
We gave tobacco. We removed it from the road. It was freshly there because it was still warm.
Mm.
Um, and at the start, I felt the loss of it. But talking with my flatmate, we got into it,
mm,
and we got into how much I love life, and this bird and all the forms of life, the joy of life, and how much it actually means to us. Not just inside ourselves, but in the creatures around us. And in the end, this bird put me in touch with that. And it was beautiful to have that. And I still feel a little bit of sadness, but I also feel the joy of it, the creation of this creature and just its experience of being here. And the fact that Mother's given room for not only that, but all the creatures of the earth, it just brings joy to me. And that's that thing. If we can't be childlike with it, we miss the joy of everything. We miss the joy of anything if we can't be childlike with it.
mm.
Which brings me back. I love that quote in the Bible. And lots of quotes today. Come ye as children into the kingdom of heaven. And I know I've used it before in these meetings, but it's one that I always come back to. And the other one I was reminded at the very beginning is one by John Kabat-Zinn. It's too serious to take seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Sakina. Yeah,
Very much.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Elders
Talking
here.
stick in the middle. Shamane.
Mm. Yeah, and when you say those things, bringing that childlikeness, right? It reminded me of this. So my healer friend Brittany and I, we hosted a self-care retreat recently. And one of our main aspects was that creative play and dance. And that dancing, when you are in a space where you feel that there's no judgment and you can just close your eyes and free flow however your body wants, it brings you out of your head into your body, into your heart. And it brings that childlike nature. Because when you're a kid, you kind of dance. Think about the little babies, right? Like we
Yep.
went to see this band play in Taos, and there was this little girl that was like just barely walking, and she was dancing however she felt like, and the joy that she brought just from dancing in her little feet, and she
Yeah.
was like getting up on stage with the band, and it was like this boundary of like, oh, is this too serious? Is this okay? Is this not? Is it good? Like, and allowing her that flexibility to be her childlike self, to explore, to be curious, to find those maracas in the back that she wanted to find, So it just and I think there is a lot of spaces these days, more so to be that, to embrace that childlike self, to dance, to be creative. And it just takes a matter of showing up.
Yeah, I was on a Zoom a couple days ago, which was Christopher's doing this thing as an elder. If he keeps his hand up, he doesn't have to stop talking. So I was on a Zoom, and we were listening to this one person talk, who was, I'm trying to be gentle.
Thunder?
No, he was a bit of an ass. So, I mean, he's just dibbling on and on and on, and this is that, and nobody listens to this. And a few of us we had our mics off, and so we're playing here. And somebody said to myself and one other person, "Oh well, I guess we said, spend some time being childlike." And the other person who was an elder of all of ours, it's like 15 years older than me, maybe more. said, no, 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 no. Being childlike is great. We need to do some of that. Being childish is just wasting time and energy. And that's a real, yes. And I thought, yeah,
There's a
that's a
difference.
distinction. We turn on the TV this day and all we see is childish, in my opinion. Just people ranting and raving about bullshit.
Yeah,
So,
the
yeah.
childishness is stuck in the ego.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the fear.
Yeah. I always remind when I explain to people the childlike nature, if you ever think of a young child, you watch them, they've got that open-eyed innocence, that
Yeah.
totally sponge-like, they're taking things in,
Mhm.
and they've got that, you see the mouths go open as they go, wow, you know, it's just, wow, and that's happening, and that's happening.
Yeah,
They're just taking it all in.
yes.
And you see they're doing something with it. They're working out their world. They're figuring it out, which
Yep.
is totally different, as you say, Shamane. Different, being childlike to childish, which is where we often come from opinion and preconception. We're not seeing the depth of something, the clarity of something,
Mhm.
and we're not taking anything seriously, which means often we're not giving somebody credibility.
That's
know,
right. That's right. We're
Mm.
not respecting the others in the circle. That's a good point.
That's interesting.
That's
Say
a really good point.
not giving someone else credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Which feels like it ties into that trust, right? Like trusting who
Mm.
you're around, trusting that their wisdom is just as equally important as
Mm.
your own or all the others around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Non-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And non-judgment cannot come from thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
I find when we dip into the heart, like Jim and I have found this, when we're really in our hearts, there is no judgment. You cannot judge in your heart because we're in the present moment. And that's where the joy comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Real joy, you feel it in the moment. It's like, wow, you just wave coming through us.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen us just stand there and appreciate things before. Simple things like hearing the bird chorus in the morning, which
Yes.
we did some videos of when we were both just standing there with our mouths open, hopefully not catching anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking, that made me feel like, you said in this moment, right? Like catching the joy in the moment. And I would love to encourage anyone to stand up real quick and just shake it out. Because I just feel like moving. So anyone who's sitting around, get up, feel the moment, be joyful, and flow. And flow. No, Jim? Come on,
Just
guys. Get
imagine I'm up and
I would, but I'd throw my back out.
yeah. You might have pieces fly off. It's not good.
It is important.
yeah.
You have this restrictedness. I was like, wow, we're talking about all this joyfulness and dancing, and here we are sitting. So
Totally. And I really would encourage anybody to do it. It's one thing I love doing.
Yeah.
Being aware, and I'll just share here, I am considered to be seriously disabled and my spine throws out anytime I try dancing, but it does not stop me experiencing the joy that I see in others. If we can't experience it directly, we experience it through others. We don't get humdrum on somebody else's joy and expression. We celebrate it.
Yeah.
We move into it through the experience of it. Our world is not just made up of our own experience. It's made up of all the experiences that come into our realm. So, Shamane, go for it. You're dancing not just for yourself, but for all of us. And I really appreciate that. You give us the freedom that we may not be able to have, but we still enjoy. We're grateful for it. So thank you.
Of course, and we feel it because we are all connected. So when we see someone laughing and joyful, like they have this even laughing yoga they have where they just all start laughing.
Oh, you gotta love it. Oh, look, it's catching already. And I'm not forcing this. This is just coming because I can feel. That's it. It's so easy, you know. It's contagious.
It is.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
vital. It's alive. And when we feel, to me, I touch the mother as I feel this. Like right here, I'm inside a house supposedly, well, apart from the picture. But I feel the mother here when I'm in this joy, this happiness. It's not, a lot of people think happiness is superficial, but it's not. It's depth. It's that resonance of being. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's so this'll I'll tag this off to a slightly different spot, but it's connected. Our friends from Pine Ridge are not on at the moment. I was on with them a little earlier. They're having phone service interruption up there, so they hope they'll be on later. But anyway, I got a few questions from them,
Mhm.
and one ties into this. And the question is, well, out of all the different things it could do, you know, whether it's a yoga retreat or people smoking too much and dancing around laughing, or a serious thing, a meditation or whatever. So the question was, well, which one's the best?
Whatever one suits you and brings you joy and peace.
Yeah. What do you feel like you need at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the
exactly.
joyfulness is brought through a deep ceremony, really connecting. And sometimes it's just brought in by laying in the dirt.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean, right. You may feel like, oh, I really would just like to laugh and jump around. Maybe that's what you need. But maybe you need to step back and do something that's a little harder. Maybe you got to look in the mirror.
Mhm.
So it's really go deep within, and you can do more than one, you know, and it doesn't have to even be other people. You can do something, pardon me, yourself
Mhm.
for that matter. So yeah, I was just thinking back. Wow, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Back a lot of years, when I was starting college, I was a really extreme introvert. Couldn't even talk to people. I hated even talking to people. And so when I looked at things, and I met with a Japanese lady who was in my college department. She was an instructor, but she was also, she'd done a lot of spiritual work, which I knew nothing about at that point. And I said, well, I'm going to try to take, I'm thinking to see, you know, what do I take that has the least contact with people? And this was Dr. Yashimoto. That was her name. Can't remember her first name now. She said, no, 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 no. I think maybe you're doing this backwards. You're going to be looking at things that you could grow in other things. So look at it and say, what would be the biggest challenge to me?
Mhm.
And I thought, this woman's nuts, you know. But a week later, I took theater as my main concentration. Absolute opposite
Mhm.
of what and you know, I had English with it and some other things, languages. But yeah, I mean, it just really pushed me. But after a little bit of time, I found myself, you know, I'm up on the stage with everyone else when we started, and we're moving around, and you know, like you do in theater when you start a rehearsal or a production. So yeah, sometimes thinking what's best for you, it may not be the easiest
Mhm.
or the most joyful.
And that's what these times are really reminding us of too.
Mhm.
What are the things that we need to be illuminated, or what is illuminating? And like even every full moon, some things are illuminated in your life that are meant to be looked upon, reflected upon, maybe laughed upon and let go of. But really, these transformative times that are going on cosmically, all these planetary alignments are really meant to show you and illuminate what are the things that are challenging. What do you need to confront and come to face with, so you can you can allow space for more joy in your life, space for that peace. Because if our body is so full of all of these different and maybe like energetic cords that are attached, if it's full of noise, then where's the space to allow in that newness, that freshness that spring brings? How can we plant seeds for what's really in alignment for us if our garden is full of weeds? Yeah, Christopher.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. I get to talk again. Yeah, I'm coming back to what you shared, Jim. I, like you in the early years, used to avoid people. In fact, I used to do it for a long time. And not that long ago, I got brought to a position where I was shown that was no longer okay.
Mhm.
And it was only then that I realized as I opened up that, as somebody said to me, by rejecting humans, I was actually human myself, and I was rejecting that human part of me. And they were right.
Mhm.
When I opened up, there's so much more joy has come in that I never knew was there. Now, I'll acknowledge, yes, part of it was a trauma background, but that needed healing. And I see how many people I know that have got trauma background try and stay separate from people, trying to protect themselves. But that separation actually creates fear,
Mhm.
not protection. And when you're present in yourself and confident, you don't need protection because you don't feel less than anything.
Mm.
And that's where I find presence. I can sit with things. It's like, just recently I was sitting with a friend. We were just sitting down at the shore of the lake and just sitting there. Just so much joy came through because we're experiencing the simplicity of something. Where we're meditating, just being with it, the waves, the shoreline, the little objects that might float by like a stick in the water. It was just so simple, and for a while I just walked out in the water and just stood there until my legs got numb. But it was just so beautiful being there. Yeah. Shamane.
Yeah, I love that you went back to the simplicity, because I think there's so many offerings these days where people are like, you can do this and that, you can do ancestral healing, you can do deep breath work, you can do all of these these how do I say, just there's so many offerings and you can go so deep and it can get so complicated, almost so complicated that it makes one not want to do any of it. Where it could be a little intimidating,
Mhm.
So if you feel that anxiety or that of diving extra deep into or something that may feel a little too complicated, then just go back to the simplicity. Just go back to sitting on Mother Earth and listening. Just go back to breathing, inhaling for 3, holding for 3,
Mhm.
exhaling for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling for 3, 2, 1. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just listen. Simple. Doesn't have to be so complicated.
Mhm.
And you don't have to do things alone. There's time to do things alone.
Mhm.
And there's time to call in community and ask for support and help. And these different offerings, whether through retreats or workshops or trainings or classes or a simple conversation with a friend, are all options to suit whatever mood or flow you're in currently. Because life is an ebb and flow. And we have to honor those different motions, those different speeds.
Another piece I had from um, our friends at Pine Ridge was, for them right now, they're doing a lot of ceremonies, which I'll bring up a Mayan part of that later. But for now, they're doing a lot of ceremonies and prayers and other things as part of what's going on. But they've found in general, and I've checked this with other tribes, with people I know, just to see, they're going back for simplicity. So things we do don't have to be elaborate. Doesn't have to be a lot of showmanship. It can be simply coming together, doing some meditating together, and then maybe journeying by yourself, and then coming together and whatever, have a meal.
Mm.
So, and that's what they're finding, that the time together spent partly on their own, even though they're in the circle, but partly then just connecting with others in the circle is the most powerful right now. So even their dances, some of the ones like they're in full regalia, they've just cut back on. And I'm curious because the Gathering of Nations is next week. I hope to get there at least for a couple days. I'm curious to see if it's going to affect anything there. That's the biggest powwow on the planet, and that's the one where you have all the pomp and ceremony, and everybody's in their
And is that the one
regalia in
Albuquerque?
Albuquerque. Yeah,
Oh, that's next week.
I didn't even realize until yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And it's interesting that you just said about you can be in circle, but be alone in circle.
Yep.
And I really like that idea. It's like this, there's a sweet tenderness there that allows you that non-judgmental space to do what you need to do, take the space that you need by yourself, but yet you still are surrounded and supported by community.
You're surrounded and supported. That's absolutely right. There's the thing we do when we do some leadership stuff, and it's you surrender yourself to the circle. So you just close your eyes, you breathe for a minute or two, and then you allow yourself to just fall back. And everyone else there has to grab you and then hold you up and then pass you around. And boy, it's intense. But when you're done, you feel this, at least most people I know I did, you feel this great sense of connection, accomplishment, because it can be fearful.
Gosh, that makes me think about jumping into crouch surfing when I was in high school and allowing everyone to let me push me across the crowd. And
that's the same general concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I find there's a difference between just being in our own focus when we're in a group or in a circle, which is different to separating from rest of the circle, realizing we can have our own focus, be with our own breath, our own connection with the mother, our own present on just where we're sitting, standing, walking, lying, whatever it is we're doing. And that's totally different to separating from things, which is, yeah, when you're really in circle, we don't separate. We may not be overly aware of the whole circle, but we know they're there. We're just not focused on it. Talking stick in the middle.
Yeah, that, I've talked about circle for a long, long time. It's been part of my teaching since the beginning because it was put into me strongly in the beginning.
That's why we have these
every
Wednesday.
That's right. A lot of my first book was bringing circle into all the things I'd learned and cultures I'd worked with. And that was the biggest objection to people coming in a circle, and it was much harder then than it is now for a lot of people, was, well, I don't want to lose myself in a circle. I don't want to just be one of a circle.
And that individuality, huh?
Yeah, it's the ego.
But that's, I was about to say it's all ego.
and the whole point is, no, it's what we're talking about here. When you go into a circle like that, become part of the circle, you gain, you don't lose, because you're still yourself. You can separate your being and do your own thing, and then you meld with the circle, and that's extra power. So 1 + 1 = 3, and it would really be illuminating when I'd work with a group for a couple of days to watch them, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is really, I feel stronger than I did alone, and that's exactly what it is. It's more supportive. It's the way we used to be. We've been trained to be loners for so long.
Time to go back with the pack.
Yep.
And find your pack. Let the pack come to you too.
Right.
You don't have to search so hard for your pack sometimes.
Nope.
You just be in alignment with what you need, do your self-care, and come into wholeness with yourself, and you'll start attracting those people who are in your tribe. But if you continue with old patterns and the things that are not really in supportive of your highest self, your highest joyous self, most illuminated or most truthful self, then you're going to attract people who are out of alignment with that. So you really have to live in a way that is authentic to you without the outside bullshit.
Yeah.
Part of my language.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something you were reflecting on, or both have. The thing I've found with the connection with mother lately, she's really bringing me into that simplicity that you mentioned as well, Jim. And that has been the key thing of everything. And one thing she said to me repeatedly is, when have you ever been separate? She shows me how I'm not separate from the air, I'm not separate from the water, I'm not separate from the minerals I receive through the food from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There is no moment I've ever been separate from her. So when we perceive our separation, we're in illusion, no matter what we apply it to. Which brings us back to that in the moment thing. When you realize how connected we are, it brings us back to the moment, which is the present, which is where we find the connection you're talking about, Shamane. It's that, once again, in the moment presence. But to me, that's where the vitality is. I had to open myself up to humans to actually experience it and just be with it, like let it flow through me. Knowing it's out there, touching it is one thing. Dipping your toe in the swimming pool does not mean you've been swimming. It's when we're in the swimming pool, we're doing it, that we're it. And something that you mentioned, Shamane, I want to give a bit more voice to, and it might sound a bit more serious. There's a lot of entertaining the ego in many things. We want to think we're doing something. We want to think we're being spiritual. We want to think we're growing. We want to think we're, doing all this growth stuff. But if it's just bouncing us up and down, tickling the ego, giving us an adrenaline rush, it's not actually connecting us. It's actually distracting. It's the simplicity that we're talking about, where the real connection's found. When you can sit down on your own and feel at peace with that which is around you, and remembering you're never truly alone. Alone is when there's no distraction beyond the self that I'm feeling attracted to. When you can sit down with that simplicity, that's when you find the real connection, because you realize that which is around us has always been and always will be: the air, the earth, the water. Yeah. If you want joy, you find it in the simplistic connection. It's not in the rah, 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 the latest fad, whoever's the most entertaining. There's a difference between connection and ego stimulation. Ego stimulation is not connection. When we're connected, we may leave the experience, but the experience does not leave us.
Yeah.
When we're truly connected, it and us feel connected continually. The same as my falcon I had the other day. I know it exactly what it feels like in my hands as I picked it up in the feathers. I can feel it now. I'm not separate from the experience. Yeah. Talking stick in the middle.
Take it.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was just, what you experienced, Christopher, is from many years of being present, right? Like when all those, just because it's like if your experiences leave an imprint upon you and you can remember them because you allowed the distractions to go. And like, how do we do that in somewhere like the city, right? Where there's constant noise, there's constant things going on, constant people trying to, get a hold of you, or constant notifications or constant things that are pulling you out of this moment, pulling you into seeing something of the past or thinking of the future instead of really feeling like this conversation right now. So how is that? How do we maintain presence amongst that chaos, amongst all the noise? And what comes to my heart is just having to pull myself back into the present. It's like, yeah, I know the awareness of being pulled out of it and being caught up in other things, and then pulling back and being like, okay, wait a minute, where's my breath again? Okay, right here.
Yeah. I find what I've had to do is I've had to practice the different aspects of experience we have. And most of us, we talk about consciousness, we talk about awareness, but we talk about them as if they're all from the same place. They're not.
Mhm.
We have brain activity, we have awareness. How do we know the difference? Because when we're thinking, it's our awareness that's aware of the thought. Drop the thought out, sit with the awareness and notice the awareness on its own.
Mm.
Then we turn it away from the thinking into the experience of the moment. Because to be with awareness, we are in the moment. You cannot think awareness, which is why the awareness, which is our observer mind, is aware of the thought. We need to practice being with these things to understand the difference between them. And I find without that, taking time with each, we practice thinking and being in our brains for so long, we don't know how to do anything else. So taking time out of thinking to sit with the awareness that was aware of the thought, but now is in its own presence, awareness, aware of our own awareness. All thought dropped away, just in the awareness. Breathing with it, how does it feel? And then we'll turn it even further into the body experience. Being with our body, the lungs moving, feeling the breath, sensing the breath from the moment. Shamane.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like how does the body feel? Because being a body worker for like 13 years and then formally, but even before then, just being someone who's in tune with the body.
Yeah.
It makes me think into the moments that I'm most aware and feel most present is when I can like feel my blood pulsing through my fingertips. I can feel my heart beating. And throughout like I would say maybe when would it be? I'm thinking back to when I started really coming to tune with that. And I was in the city, I was in Los Angeles, and I don't know, I think bodywork 13 years before then even. So over, 15 years ago, it took 15 years where now I can just feel my blood pulsing and I'm tuned into my heartbeat all the time. And was so much so where I'm like, oh, you don't feel the pulsing of your blood all the time? Like, oh, is that like not a normal thing that people don't feel? Like, it's just something that is there. And I realize it's because I've constantly created a muscle memory of that awareness.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So it
And how
takes
does it feel?
time and patience
Yeah.
and persistence.
And now that you've got it, how does it feel being with it?
Right. And that makes me feel into like, did you want to say something?
Okay.
It makes me feel into when we go to, there's so many people out there now that go to one retreat or go to one plant medicine ceremony and they think it's all good then after that. And it's bullshit. You're fooling yourself.
Yep.
You're absolutely fooling yourself. And even people who, they go on one trip to Peru and they come back a shaman and you're just like, no, you're absolutely not. Like, I would never call myself that until I'm dead. I don't ever, nope, you don't call yourself that. It's because of the experiences that you've gone through and other people recognize and feel that presence that you have within yourself and with all that surrounds.
Yeah. And that's always part of pulling people together for whatever the experience is going to be, is if it's done properly, it can really feed everybody, because different people in the circle will step up and contribute things that they know. It's those who profess to be much more than they are. And, you're going to come and you're going to pay them, you're going to do their workshop, retreat, whatever it is. And then they'll give you this nice little piece of paper that says,
the piece of paper.
You are a shaman or you are a healer. Those are the ones who get the least out of, because those people are not willing to let anyone else speak, because then they lose control. And some of those folks really think they know all there is to know around a certain subject. Others just haven't been taught that, hey, you know, this nice piece, but what about this?
Mhm.
And just because you're leading something, you know, I used to lead 4 and 5 day retreats here in Sedona when I didn't live here. And of course, I and my ex, we would, you know, we'd lead it and we'd do a lot of parts, but I'd have other people step up. Just because they're paying you doesn't mean you don't let other people step up. You're paying for the experience, you're paying for wherever you are and all the energy put into it.
Mhm.
Because I've had people say, oh, I wouldn't let anyone step up because, you know, they're paying to be here, so they should just be delivered with what I said. And no, you know, again, you're losing it.
collective.
It's a collective.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
truly, and I've had people who really stepped up, and it's happened me myself, and started really playing a role in the thing. And then you can reimburse them somehow as part of the presentation team if that's needed. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, you have to let it flow.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. Being over there previously, I find I can get a little bit awkward with words leading into something.
Yeah.
And my lovely brother Jim here was always great at opening space, introducing things. And yeah, did that mean the window? Sorry. And he just set it up and then just dropped me into the space. I found his ability to bring out the best, not only in me, but in others. And he'd shift attention from one person to the other as he felt it was timely. And he created a flow. He wasn't doing much himself sometimes. Yes, he had his turn of speaking, but he made sure everybody else had that. And that brought balance to the group, to the community, and to the event there. Everybody felt involved at some point. And you could see after our events, people would come together and start talking with those they'd felt a connection with through the activity. It's by working in that community that that was created. Without that, if one of us just thinks we're something,
Yeah.
it creates a separation, which is not how circle works.
No,
And
it's not.
yeah, that was a huge part of it. And the other thing that came home to me, a lot of people ask me, what do I do and things like that. And I have never really found an adequate name for it. And Jim introduced me as various things at times, well, usually one or two things. But the name wasn't one that was given by me, as he said in one event, and this came home.
Right.
It wasn't just Jim using the name after a while, it was others who came into it. The name wasn't given by me. I didn't give it to myself. The names that were being used were given by my peers and those around us. There was Jim and there were others who recognized, how would I call it, the recognition of the title that was being used.
Right.
Not by bits of paper, but by my own actions and behaviors. And the other thing I had certificates and bits of paper over the years, and I've never had them framed. I've never put them up on the wall. I did once with one and I took it down. I don't see that much credibility in them. And I always said, if I ever do frame them, put them up on the wall, I'm going to put a piece of toilet paper in a frame alongside them because it's probably the most useful bit of paper amongst the lot.
Yeah, that's if we do it together and we do it so we all feel safe, then people can grow. And you are a great example. I mean, you changed dramatically from when you first got here. It was really fascinating because you didn't want to talk much at all at first, and then next thing you know, we're with people of all these different cultures. And that's what you hope will happen. You know, it doesn't always happen. And I've been the one who's been quietly sitting in the corner hoping that I can't be seen and pulled forth. It's the pieces of paper. That is a real interesting one. I have some of them. And I have one room that I generally put some up on a wall because I have some people who come to me for help who are not comfortable unless they see that I walk a spiritual road. And so I work spiritually, not religiously, but I'm also a minister. So I put one up that shows I'm a minister because somebody is more comfortable with that, and that's okay. But I also use it as a teaching opportunity. And I kind of share just what you're saying, Chris. They may ask about, oh, you're a minister too. Yeah, I am. Or you have a degree in natural resources. I do. But I said the most valuable things I have up there. You see that picture there? That's of me and my brother Little Thunder. Or how about that feather over there? That's from my first sweat lodge. Those are the degrees that mean something to me. Not that these others, if that's where you're at, that's absolutely fine. And I value them, but you have to take them with a grain of salt. And that way you stay out of the ego of what those things are. But
Yeah.
I like the toilet paper idea.
Which is like letting go of attachment to those things in different
Absolutely.
ways. Yeah.
Yep. It's
What was that,
absolutely-
Shamane? I missed that.
It just ties into letting go of attachment to those things.
Yeah,
Attached to the ego aspect.
yeah.
And
It's
that's,
interesting.
that's
Oh,
when
sorry.
things- that's when things can really happen. Him bringing this point up is really cool. Talking about these other aspects. When I was with Colorado State, I went to get some advanced degrees. And before you know it, I was teaching and I was running the environmental center, blah, 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 and working with a lot of indigenous people. So I wasn't sure where that all was coming from. And I was going for degrees. So I got a master's in environmental interpretation. Then I got a master's in natural resource management. And I was supposedly working towards my PhD. And I sat looking at these pieces of paper I'd earned to that point, and then looking at these pictures of myself and some of my elders, some of my brothers and sisters, and realizing, boy, that's where I'm effective. Rolling up my sleeves out there with my hands ready, working with the other people, working with the young people directly, working with the elders directly. And so I sat, I had everything all done. I had my oral exam scheduled for the following day. It was the last thing I needed to do for my PhD. I sat there for 5 hours, just connecting into my own spirit, connecting with some who had passed on, who are now ancestors, who were my elders. And suddenly I went, damn, am I really going to do this? And I called all the people on my committee and I said, I have to cancel my thing tomorrow because I don't want a PhD. I'm not built to be in a laboratory. I'm not built to be collecting verbal data or little clips of paper. I'll look at those things, I'll understand them, but then let me get out there and do the work with the people. And I've never felt such anger as I did from two of those people. They're like, you can't do this. Why not? Because after tomorrow, you'll have your PhD. Yes, I know, but I don't want that energy. And I have never looked back. I am thrilled that that's what I did. Because then the rest of my work career, I continued to be out there in the field, doing the work, getting it ready. So let somebody else write it up and put the book on the shelf. We were out there creating what they needed to write up and share. And I think that's where we're at now, Chris. And that's what you and I were doing. I thought I would write more when you were here. But I didn't because we were in it. We were dipping in it every damn day. And the first week we had to understand that we had to get out of this because we were trying to make plans and create a laughing like hell at us. Once we knew that, then we were just every day it was being created. I could sit now and write some of what we learned without a problem because it's now part of the collective. I don't need to right now, maybe later. That's all, but you brought that all forward. That was, yeah.
It was a big thing that learning not to be in our heads is still the most popular story I tell.
Yep.
It was really, really worthwhile.
Yeah. I'm constantly saying that. Reminding myself of that. Get out of my head. Is this in my head or is this in my heart?
Yeah.
When it's in my head, I'm like, oh, this makes sense. It makes sense if I do this. And then when I go to my heart and I'm like, no. What's my first voice saying? My very first voice before the ego and the rationale rises. What is that saying?
Yeah.
And that'll lead you
It's
to
a
what
bit,
kind of healing tools you need
Mm.
on a daily basis to keep in balance, to keep opening space for joy, and to keep feeling the joy come in, and that creative spark and that balance and that peace.
yeah, totally. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I almost don't want to talk because it's like I just love feeling the feeling of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean, we were literally sitting there at night having a little fun. Other
yeah,
people were off and around, and then we would be making plans. Okay, what are we going to do in the next couple of days? Well, we're going to head off to Hopi Land. Well, do we want to go up in the first mesa, or do we want to head right up to? And each time, none of those plans worked. None, not one.
Yeah.
And we finally said, well, to put it bluntly, screw it. Let's just head out and see what happens. And then everything started to work.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
Shazay showed up and we went there, and someone else we thought we were going to see didn't show up. I mean, on and on and on.
Mhm.
yeah.
So when you
I'm
look
gonna,
at things, when people look at things to do, really
Mhm.
consider all these things.
Mhm.
If you feel like you need a fun break, take a fun break.
Mhm.
If you feel like you want to really do some work, transformational work on yourself, do that.
Mhm.
Just I would pick carefully as you can where and who and when you do these things.
But try not to overthink it.
Yeah, don't overthink. No, you don't have to think it. That's exactly right. You can, oh, here, look at this. Looks really interesting. Let
Mhm.
me feel into that person. Is that
It's like-
person real?
Right. And it's like people will go, I've heard this so much living in a van, and they'll be like, man, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, just do it.
Yeah.
And even
Mm.
today, someone was like, oh, I was young. I used to do the whole van thing, da da da. And they go, but now we're older and we want comfort. And I go, well, my mom's like in her 50s, late 50s, and she's like, might sell her house and get an RV and start traveling. It's like, it's never too late. Go with what you're feeling. Because when you trust your intuition, you'll never be led astray.
Mm,
And when you allow
it's
yourself
like,
to be vulnerable to trust it.
mm,
Mhm. And that can be scary. It can be scary to trust yourself because we're programmed so much in this world to trust
Mhm.
in other people to tell us how we should do, say, think, or feel. But what happens when we turn the volume down on all of them? What are we really saying? What's our body, our mind, and our spirit wanting?
yeah.
If it's to go to Costa Rica and go to a gathering of just women or just men, then maybe you should make that a priority and go do it because your spirit's telling you to.
Hmm.
Don't think about, oh, I can't get the time off. It'll work. You'll work it out.
Yeah, it will. Just don't force. I see a lot of people, well, I think I really have to go do a fun thing. So I'm going to go do this, damn it, even if I don't want to. No, you're missing the point the other way now. Now you're forcing it. Forcing it is much different than allowing it to come in. If you allow it to come in, you'll feel if it's right or not. If you're forcing it, then you might step into something that at best case won't do you any good, or it could possibly harm your development.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That elder has his hand up again, I see.
Yeah. I put it up and down every so often just to let you know I'm here. Um, I'm going to tell the story. It reinforces it. And this is the one that I tell the most often. Jim had been working to find an event ground for us before I came over to the US last year. I think you'd been spending about 6 weeks on it or something. Appointments would get cancelled, people wouldn't show up, or there'd be something going on.
Hmm.
And I got there and I'm poured into helping him. And it was day 3, I think. We're out driving around when another appointment hadn't worked. And, phone calls had run out. There was nothing we were getting anywhere. And we pull over the side of the road and you said, Jim, we're doing this all wrong. And you mentioned that we're coming from our heads. And we hauled into this conversation, how it just wasn't working from our heads and we had to come from our hearts. And as we're sitting on the side of the road, within 20 minutes while we're having the conversation, we had 2 phone calls offering us ground.
Yep.
Hadn't worked for 6 weeks from the head, 20 minutes of being in our heart, like we practiced. We just got to slip in the heart and feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And suddenly there it was.
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes, we're sitting there,
Mm-hmm.
unsolicited. We'd made no contact with those people.
Mm-hmm.
Came through. And the one we took was a ground that wouldn't have been usually available at that time.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let go, let flow. We just, our conversation was about, we've just got to let this go and trust. And there it happened while we were saying the words.
Mm.
That to me is reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Something I'm going to do to speak to something we said earlier about knowledge. We were talking about bits and paper and training and stuff like that, doing weekend courses and thinking you're something. Real knowledge to me, you can't hold on to, because as the Buddhists say, everything's in a constant state of change. Whatever we're learning, if we're a shaman, you realize it's not about having a bit of paper or anything like that. It's about being in touch with the earth, and she is constantly changing. If we are not constantly listening to her, and there's way more than to shamanism than listening to the earth, you're in that constant ongoing process, which is changing from moment to moment. If I stop listening for a moment, that connection disappears and I am no longer a shaman in that moment. And to me, this is like being a teacher. And I've said this before. I don't determine that I'm a teacher. When somebody who's listening to me recognizes they learn, in that moment, teaching has taken place. I don't determine that. The person listening, the student, determines that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say something back to me and I have one of those, light bulb moments from that, then I am the student, not the teacher.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching isn't a bit of paper. It isn't qualification. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's that.
It is a cycle.
And that's another side of this coin. And again, knowing what you're looking for and what you need, feel into it. And when you find it, there might be something you're going to delve into that's new to you. Then you may want somebody who takes the lead upon themselves. I know when I do things, multiple day things, I take a lot of time analyzing who's coming. And if it's a group that's new to it, I'm going to play more of a role than I do if it's a group that has more experience with it. So you need to know that too. And that goes for ceremonies. That goes for, we're going to open the sweat lodge here soon that I'll be pouring. And the first couple of them, I've been asked if some people can come in who are brand new to it, and if some children can come in. Well, I'm going to run those very much differently than I would for those who are hardened to it and know what the experience is, and they're expecting something more. So any of these things, you really, really should know that. And I will ask often at the beginning of something, okay, here we are. How much do you guys want to play in this? And how much do you want me to stand up here and lead things? And do you really want to be in this room, or should we get outside for most of it and experience things? And they'll tell you quite often. Sometimes they're shocked because you have some people like, well, I've never done anything quite this way. Well, that's good. You're trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, literally.
Mm-hmm.
It's where new knowledge takes place. And,
Yeah.
What you're sharing here, Jim, brings me back to that point. Knowledge is useless if it's not shared.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And to share it, somebody has to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not learning, then no knowledge is taking place. No exchange is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge, teaching, bits of paper don't mean anything unless there is benefit gained by the exchange and the sharing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person determines that, not me.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I loved about our retreat that we recently had too was that everyone had their own wisdom to bring to the table.
Mhm.
And just because Brittany and I were facilitating didn't mean we weren't constantly learning as well. You know, our
Mhm.
participants were teachers as well in so many ways. One was my mother. You know, and she's been teaching me her whole life, and yet I've been teaching her my whole existence, you know. So yeah, it doesn't matter where someone is in their life, how young or what their age is. Everyone has a bit of wisdom, and we just need to accept that. And once we accept that, we're out of our ego and in our hearts, because we're hearing the energy, feeling the energy, and we're not criticizing it as it comes in.
I was going to say your relationship's an ideal learning zone. Anybody who thinks you can't learn from somebody younger, ask a new parent.
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, they got it backwards if that's what somebody thinks.
Yeah.
I learned so much more from the young than I do, even if it's something that I learned a long time ago and I use. Realities change. So young people now are looking at it very differently than I did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So I learned that, and I can adjust my perception of it if I wish, or I can understand that they have a different perception of it. And so I have to present it differently. So yeah, no, boy, it's the older people, and I don't mean we don't have a lot to share. We do. We've learned a lot. But they're the ones who more likely are stuck in their ways. Dang it, I've done it 30 years this way. I ain't going to change. Where the young people are, oh, I like that. I'm going to shift that way. Maybe now this way. So yeah, it's definitely. It's why when we have the multi-generational events, those are great.
Yeah, the Indigifest was really beautiful for
Yeah,
that. There was
that was a
such
good
a
one.
diverse group of people from all cultures, all ages, and everyone had so much wisdom to offer, and everyone was ready to listen and learn from each other. As much as the wisdom keepers and the audience alike, you know, it was quite beautiful.
It's the beauty of it. It's a funny thing when you really learn to recognize wisdom and knowledge, you'll see it in everybody in some form or another. And we're talking about people being childish before, which is different to being childlike. And somebody's being childish, that's an experience and a wisdom in its own, because the person's had to develop that skill. Right? It's not something you learn from birth or you have at birth, you learn it. So that person has had to specialize in being childish through experience and repetition. Doesn't mean it's very useful, no, but there is a skill to it. We can understand how it works, how people get there, and then we can help them find another way if that feels appropriate. Sometimes we need that person to play Hioka of some form, you know, so we learn from that as well. It just, yeah, you can't judge the knowledge, no matter where it is.
No.
But you can realize whether it's adding to the moment or taking away from it. Yeah. Talking stick in the middle.
I'm trying to remember. Well, our friends never made it today. But I'll send them the recording. Nope. Oops. They didn't make it, but that's okay. We'll send them the recording and we thank them for their questions. There's a couple we didn't get to, but that's all right. Hold on to them, guys, and next time.
Put them in the comments in the YouTube.
Yeah, put them in comments.
Or on the Facebook group page.
Yeah, I don't think they get, but anyway, give them to me and I'll put them in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing with our meetings. Even though this is a weekly thing and free flowing, for those who do watch this, please feel free to send in your questions. We will put them in the lineup. We'll bring them up in the next show, or if we've got one following that's more appropriate and suited to that subject, we'll put them and streamline them where we're going to get the most from those questions. So
And
feel
your
free to
question,
send them in.
And your question
Yep.
might spark the topic for the next week. So don't hold back. We want to hear your wisdom too. Hear your curiosity.
And that's
Oh.
also, I had 2 people today who said, oh, I'd really like to hear you talk about, and each one named, boy, if you have a topic that kind of falls within what we do, suggest it.
Mm.
And if you're really up on it, if you're into that area, maybe you want to come on and be a guest with us.
Yeah.
Be a guest
absolutely.
host.
And if you're really feeling connected to our mission, come on in and help us on our different committees, because we are small and growing and we need help. So reach out to us about that. But yeah.
Yeah. People often think I need help.
Me too.
Well, you
Yeah.
both do. I mean, I don't want to step in your parades, but both of you could use some major help. But there's not
It's
many of
interesting.
us. There's not many of us who are totally balanced. So,
Yeah.
Bless you.
bless me.
Yeah.
It comes spiritual too. Oh,
So this is the thing for those who are watching and listening, this being about joy, Jim and I and Shamane, and we're together, this humorous banter goes on most of the time. Yes, we do some serious stuff, but we lighten it up. And I'm going to chat to something else. Shamane and I were having a discussion one day. We were doing it online recently, and I'm blithering away about something, and I remember you saying, "Oh, that sounds like a topic for our talk," and that's what it became.
yeah.
Topics come from the simple conversations. They can come from anywhere, and it's just, oh, there's something we could do something with. Yeah, and the other thing I want to do while we're here is give thanks and say hi to our brothers and sisters in Pine Ridge, and also to Sunbird. Wherever you are hiding, hi.
Flying around somewhere.
He's under the table
Yeah.
over there. I don't know what that's. Yeah, it's probably better we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe what if you have made it this far in the video, I do have a question for you if you want to reflect upon it and share, or just reflect upon it, but sharing will create this conversation. What can you, in the midst of all of these cosmic changes and shifts and world shifts, how can you release something to make space to bring in more joy? How can you release something that isn't serving and supporting your highest good to make space for more joy? How can you make space for more joy? So if you've made it this far, please leave a comment wherever you're seeing this.
Well,
Keep the conversation going.
I see a hand up. I wonder who it could be.
Looks like someone in New Zealand that's in the middle of the day.
Oh,
if he stops eating for a minute, maybe he'll say something.
Now I'm forgetting what I was going to say. That's back to no, I've lost it. Yeah, you've
see now. I was going to joke about that, but dementia is not a funny thing, so I won't.
Gone with the wind. Fly, little birdie of a thought, fly.
Yeah. Oh, you got it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
No,
not attached.
That's another show that Shami's just putting in there. We should have a show on, okay, how do we release these things? Because there's a lot of different ways.
And maybe we actually take them through some ways right on the spot.
And we could, and then suggest some ways they can find their own.
Yeah.
Because boy, every time I do those sorts of things, new ways come up that I've never thought of.
I always find,
Shami's
I was going to say
around the room here. I don't know what's going on. She must
have
a jackpot.
I don't even know what this thing is. What is this? This is a tree right here.
That's part of my airfare over to the US.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how we put value in a bit of money, not on the goods and services that we purchase with it. maybe we forgot where the real value lies. Therein lies another talk.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I would suggest you maybe change that to some people do that. To me,
Yeah.
I see money as a tool.
Mhm.
And since it's the basis of exchange still, we need some of it in order to do the work. But other people, yeah, they just worship it. We're seeing some of that play out right now, big way.
Which is funny because in turn, they're really worshiping trees
Yeah. Oh God, you
As
gotta
they
love it.
destroy them.
as
Yeah.
they destroy them.
And of course, right on their money, what does it say? In God we trust. Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. I know that
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what a beautiful conversation tonight.
This was fun. And for those who couldn't make it and asked me, I hope you do play it. You have questions, you can get hold of us anyway, you know, we're around, or you can do it right on the video. I check them periodically. These have been getting passed around a lot, so continue to pass them around.
Mhm. Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Yeah. My thing before,
He's a bit
easiest way
bumpy.
to let, yeah, easiest way to let go is just focus from what we're thinking about, because attachment's always a thought. Just focus back to the moment, what's happening right now. And especially step outside your front door, feel nature. She'll bring you back to the moment every single time and bring you back to what's important.
Yeah.
If you're breathing and your heart's beating, you know, everything else is secondary.
Keep it simple. Allow yourself to feel the joy.
Yep, totally.
Mhm.
I love it.
Love it,
Yeah.
love you, and love all of you.
And we're getting near the end. Who wants to close it out? Since we started right in the beginning, so I didn't want to interrupt, so we didn't do an opening.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
I
Oh,
started
I
to
was
do
Let
sharing.
it go. Let it
I was
go.
And I saw Chris there in New Zealand and the hands going like this. And I didn't want to get in his way. Like a Kiwi.
Yeah, flightless bird.
Yep.
Yeah, like, well, I thought it was part of an opening, even though it wasn't an official one. So I'm going to finish the same.
Okay.
And this for me is part of the joy. I've developed a group of friends here, companions, and God, I'm going to say empaths, that we feel each other, even though physically we're miles apart. In our hearts, we're right next door to each other. I feel each and every one of these people like they're right here. And I couldn't be more grateful if I tried. The joy, the happiness, the contentment that brings to find a family that's bigger than my birth family and it's worldwide. It literally does feel like I'm right here and you guys are right here with me. So to me, this is where real gratitude, real joy, real love, real appreciation. And this is what we're learning to do with the earth, which is part of the message of Sotum. I'd like you to bring it back to part what we're here for, which is reconnecting with the mother. Some of us forgot to listen to it, and we're coming back to that listening. Opening our hearts and being present is the greatest way to do it. And Jim and I had to get out of our heads to welcome each other in. He welcomed me in from half a world away. Shamane has done the same. We've kept contact ever since, and to me, it's only growing. Now, Sunbird's coming into the family, even though he's hiding. Yeah, you know, Sunbird, feel your presence. Hope to meet face to face. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for all those who are listening and brought their gifts of presence and time here. We couldn't be more grateful if we tried. Thank you.
And I'll just do a quick footnote. SODM is Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother, which is our nonprofit. We're all part of it. And the address is SOTEM.org. So feel free to look us up. Plus, we're all over Facebook and all the other virtual means.
Mhm. Yeah. And I just want to give special thanks to all the energies of the South, that youthfulness, that summer. Thanking them for reminding us what it is to be joyful, reminding us to reflect upon and forgive and love our childlike selves, not being in the childish, but being in the childlike, and allowing us to dance and feel safe in spaces where we can feel non-judgment, to be who we are in this moment, and allowing grace for the shifts in between, the transitions from moment to moment, knowing that the only constant is change. May we have that acceptance as we move forward in our steps. And may we continue to cultivate that joy within, clearing the space. May all those who are seeing this video and all those who may be touched by these conversations, these words, this energy, and all those who are not as well, to feel spaces where they can release, so they can bring in that joy, so they can feel that little spark of light, of laughter, and a smile. And know that it is welcome and loved and worthy of being received.
I hope.
Okay, we're there. We took it home.
May you feel all of the love this week. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.